Hey guys, and welcome to another satisfactory world tour. Now, if you've seen the first one, don't worry, we're gonna go over all the new stuff first. But if you haven't seen the first one, then also don't worry, because we'll go over everything in this world tour. But let's first drive over to where the new stuff is. Now, if you are a newcomer, or I'll tell you a few things, I do have advanced game options on, or that's mostly to help me fly around and build all these things. So as you can see up on the left there, that is the new factory. And doesn't it look absolutely massive when you drive out on the ground level here? Now we're coming up to the entranceway right up here. And as you can see by the signs, explorers only after this point. Caution, it gets near vertical. Now I think tractors can make this route, but it's just, the explorers just make this little section here so much easier. So I only allowed explorers up here. So let's just park my little car here and explore the factory. So we have arrived at the RCU factory. Its entire point is to make radio control units. And at the first floor here is a very open floor. And it's basically just an entire floor filled with trains. You train lovers would love this. So for this factory, we import water, oil, we export heavy oil residue, which we'll get into more later. We import some ore, quartz, bauxite, deuterium, and copper. Now for the oil and ore trains, we have two of them, just to keep the supplies there and ready. You have a holding station for the heavy oil residue. And something that I might do in the future, depending on how my trains get clogged, is split the water into two trains. But we'll see how my train network can handle that. Handle this 15... Oh, there it goes. Oh, I love it. So back behind my construct factory over there, we have a little railway coming all the way down here. And to the left over here is where our water supply is coming into. So when you put liquid onto trains, the amount of liquid that can be held on the train is not that much with fluid cards. So you kind of need to double them. So each one of these is just like 180 water per minute. It's not that much in the grand scheme of things. But the fuel cars, or the fluid cars here, only store 1,600 fuel. But fluid cars are cool, and messing with canisters is kind of lame. Even if canisters can really hold a lot more fluid. Now out here, we have where the oil comes in. This is the furthest away outpost that I currently have. Now I do plan to expand out further in the future, but as of current standing, most of my stuff is concentrated in the northern desert. That one start area, the savannah, is what I like to call it. So as you can tell here, simple idea. Fill the fill the wagons up with oil, as you do. The oil coming from these 3 nodes here. Now with the oil, what I am doing is every impure node has a single car dedicated to it. So that means the normal node has 2, and both of these impures have 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 long oil trains, which I will do for every single section of oil. Or that's just my standard. That's my standard for fluids. So over here we have the RCU ore outpost. This is where the train gets the rest of his ores. Which comes from my beloved trucks. You know, they try their best. And they can work, but they struggle. Struggle a lot. Anyway, so as this truck is going to demonstrate, the Caterium comes from this Caterium outpost, which also supplies my main construct factory, but it doesn't use that much. And that's a pure node, so we're going to use it for more over here. Trucks. Now the copper comes from all the way over here. We have a new route along the main Avernus Avenue. And over here we have the copper outpost. Follow along over the train tracks here. And all the way behind my construct factory, where they get their copper from here. I'm probably going to work on these a little bit, maybe. We'll see. Definitely this one. This outpost gets its copper kind of split from this vein. Now, the construct factory needed some, and RCU factory needed it. So, split that way. This should be getting perfect ratios. And since this can't get perfect ratios due to how trucks work, the rest just gets shoved over here, and then the excess gets shoved into an awesome sink. Awesome sink isn't really necessary, but it's there. So let's start with the fun part of the factory, where everything is made. So if we come through the front door where we parked our car, and walk all the way up here, I'm lazy, so I'm not going to walk. We have the refinery floor. And there are so many refineries. Over here, we have the oil processing refineries. All the oil gets turned into this heavy oil residue recipe. And the polymer from that recipe gets turned into plastic with a little bit of the water. Now, only some of the heavy oil residue, that might be a problem, but some of it gets turned to petroleum. That seriously might be a problem. I'll dissect that later. And the petroleum gets used in the aluminum production. We have the sloppy alumina recipe here. It's turned into the alumina solution. And then with petroleum at an inefficient rate, grumble, 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 gets turned into the scrap, which these two recipes here double the aluminum production. We have the pure copper ingots getting made here, and a whole lot of them, because this is kind of mostly copper, if we're being honest. And a little bit of caterium, and a little bit of overkill on the quartz. That is by design, because this recipe, while good, is horrible mathematically. We also make some copper sheets here, steamed copper sheets. And this is where all the pure aluminum gets made. And then we have items being shipped down. Now this isn't just a radio control unit facility. This also makes some extra casings and alclad plates. Hello? For the tier 5 belts and other reasons. The heat sinks in these are just for the radio control units. So now we have the top and final floor. All the resources come together to make what they need. Over here we have the high-speed connectors used for the RCUs. And we have all the quick wire in the world needed for this. The circuit board's powering that. And the cables are all the way over here. In the middle here, we have the heatsink recipes. The heatsinks require the alclad plates. Because the other one, I believe, takes rubber and, no, we're not doing that. Now, at the very ends here, on both sides, we have the casings being made. And I believe, like, yeah, 2 of these alclad productions are being shipped down to be used by me later on. And you can see the Caterium, quick wire, all the way over here. I use the one where you combine a little bit of copper, because Caterium is also kind of a rare resource, while copper is not quite as rare. So all the products that get made in the upper levels get shipped down to here, into these 6 manufacturers making the RCU units. Altogether, this factory makes 22.5 RCU units per minute. All of the RCU units, along with the alclad plates and the aluminum casing, gets shipped out over here. We have this long conveyor belt. Goes under here. And then each of them go through one of these holes. And out to the shipping area. Each one of these is just for, you know, one of the outputs. And we have one for fuel. Now there is like 3 more outputs this factory makes, actually. So let's go to them. Now we're back over here at the RCU units. Now if we go underneath here, and up here, we have a little back area. Now nothing's on this floor, but we can go down. Down here is where another whole factory is at. Now this is a tiny factory because it really only needs to make 3 things. We are making quartz crystals, crystal oscillators, and silica. Now luckily right underneath here is a limestone node. So we take some of the quartz and some of the limestone from the node down here, and we just simply make the silica. Now we also take some of the quartz. This all comes from upstairs, by the way. And we make some of the quartz crystals. Now we use some of these quartz crystals to make the crystal oscillators. We only make 1 per minute, but that's okay. They do not have many recipes. They're only used for the small build board, large build board, radar tower, and explorers. All of which I do not use that frequently. Now the cables are being made from the copper that's being shipped here, but the iron needed to be shipped in. That is being shipped from right next to my construct factory. Anyway, all of these things get sent to another truck outpost, where we export crystal oscillators, we import iron, and then export the crystals and the silica. All of the fuel comes in from the other port, and this one does not have the limitation of only being for explorers. The little path for it goes all the way around these rocks. and all the way down to down there, which is also the place where the copper comes from. Now you may be asking yourself, if you remember, I am shipping out heavy oil residue. Now what am I doing with all that heavy oil residue? Why didn't I just make the polymer resin instead of dealing with all this extra heavy oil residue? Well, heavy oil residue is used a lot. So let's go over to the new and improved oil factory. Now we need to slow down at Avernus Avenue here. A lot of wrecks happen on this little stretch of road. It's very dangerous. We have entered the construct factory grounds. Now we gotta go around the rock in the middle. And now we're at the heart, the Massage 2 ABB operation. But we're not gonna stay here for too long. We're gonna make an illegal move and go this way. Now down under the tracks here, we have a little bit of a road. Not very well defined. As you can see, all the sand dunes on this part of the road especially. But we are going to approach the new and improved oil factory. Functionally, it is the same, but design-wise, it looks a lot better. And I've also completed the fuel bleachers. There's no official parking here, so I'm just going to park the car here. And here we are. We arrive. Now, it probably definitely looks busier here. First thing you may notice, a new train stop. This is where all the heavy oil residue goes now. It goes all the way up here to a new floor I added, which is the blender fuel recipe. Someone in the comments of the last video mentioned that this recipe is pretty good, which it is. It's a good recipe. Once you get to the stage of the game where you get this alternative, you should probably use this over the other recipe. The only reason I did not in this factory, one, I built it before I got the alternate recipe, before advanced game mode came out, or advanced game options. And two, if I did swap out this entire factory here with the blender recipe, I would only get 400 megawatts power difference. That is not worth it in my eyes to redo this entire factory floor. Anyway, the heavy oil residue there's actually a lot being produced there. So this is, I believe, 20 blenders, each making 100 fuel per minute. That is 2,000 fuel per minute being produced up here. Now this 2,000 fuel per minute, 3 of those, 1,800 of that, is being sent to the top 3 rows of the bleachers, adding more power to my power production facility. Now 200 of that is going to go below, and we'll see that in a minute. We also have this section here, which is just the probably overdeveloped failsafe. I don't really want this heavy oil residue backing up, so I have it from the power of gravity. If there's enough in the system, it will go up more. Get stored in these heavy industrial fluid buffers and go up even more, and then start going down into these refineries, which turns them into petroleum coke, which I just delete over here in the awesome sinks. Is this necessary? Probably not, but I'd rather the RCU factory keep producing. So that's what that's for. Now I mentioned some of that fuel comes down here. This floor has not changed. I just make the heavy oil residue, put it into the package diluted fuel recipe, and unpackage it, just like before. Very simple. If you remember the last video though, I did fix the math. This line here just fuels the last two refineries on these two rows. And that fixed the math. So this entire production facility here makes 7 rows of 600 fuel per minute. And as we saw in the bleachers, that's where it gets burned. Now up here, I have one of those rows dedicated to turbo fuel. Now this turbo fuel is not for burning for power, not in a direct sense at least. It's for all my trucks. So all the fuel here gets packaged, delivered onto the train, and gets sent to an outpost where the trucks deliver it where they need to go. Now if you know, the turbo fuel needs compacted coal. Well, before I used to just make it on site, but now I'm shipping it in, which we'll talk about in a minute as well. Another change is all that polymer resin is now being turned into a lot of plastic and a lot of rubber. Not just the canisters for the turbo fuel. And I'm using the recycled... Actually, here's the recycled recipes. Now, I don't know why. I feel like I have some issues here, which I'll need to work out. I'm pretty sure this all stems from the RCU factory not producing all of the fuel they need. Anyway, part of the fuel does come from the downstairs, but it should prioritize the turbo fuel because that's kind of the whole purpose of this top factory here. But any excess comes to make rubber and plastic. That's what these two are for. So now we're done with the oil power plant. So let's move on to where it gets its compacted coal. That makes perfect sense. We arrived at the newest addition, the bombs and compacted coal plant. Now, I talk a lot about how sulfur is the rarest, ore, and it's one of the biggest limiting factors. So all my coal use all my coal use, right, or sulfur use, being provided by these two nodes down here. And that's it, a normal and impure node. And that is supplying the turbo fuel, the heavy modular frames factory, and my bomb production. So basically all of it's being turned into compacted coal. Besides for a select little overflow bit being turned into black powder. So the compacted coal has two outputs. The main one being the truck output here, because that goes to the heavy modular frame factory. the truck fuel is not as important. I'd rather the trucks be low on fuel than this run out of compacted fuel. But saying that out loud, the trucks kind of help provide this, so they're very intertwined. But anyway, it fills up the truck first, and then the freight platform next. And also, the train, since it goes to the oil outpost, which that's where the heavy oil residue from the RCU comes from, we get part of it and ship it here. Now, there's a lot here in storage because we, like, do not use much here at all, but hey, it's here. But that heavy oil residue is only being used to make smokeless powder. Now, you may have kind of guessed what I'm making already if you know this game, but I'm making cluster novelist, which are just cluster bombs. So now my clearing of the icky terrain should be very much more efficient. So anyway, those cluster bombs get sent down here and get stored here. Now, I don't make many, and I don't really need that many, so it's fine. Now, this will get shipped to the construct factory. But for Nautilus, you do need steel pipes. So where do I get those steel pipes from? The neighboring factory, the steel forge. Now, if you remember the last time we visited here in the last tour, I upgraded the truck port here. We had some remnants that this is still remnant of. But I just made it this new design, where they just go through, and this works so much better. If you ever design anything with trucks, have them go through the truck station. If you try to make them like go off to the side, they just do not do that very well, so they'll just bump into each other and all kind of shenanigans. Pretty much everything else about this is the same. I just tidied it up a little bit. Back here, which I don't even think you could see in the original video, this now looks like a million times better. I want to briefly show the upper levels of the steel plant here, because I did do a little bit of decoration here. But most of this has not changed. The steel's being made here. We're using the compacted steel recipe because that's just better than the default. Iron's getting made there. Then we have the production floors here. We have some steel beams getting made. Whole bunch of steel pipes. Followed by some concrete. And then the encased beams. Followed by some copper wire, some rotors, stators, and then the motors. And that's pretty much the steel forge. So now let's go on over to where all of the compacted coal gets shipped to. That gets made at that little factory there. It's just a short little stroll over this way. First, we gotta go through this very incomplete tunnel. No, it looks more complete from this angle, actually. But, okay, there's the incompleteness that you can see. But we'll go up here. Take a left turn. And we have arrived at the heavy modular frame factory. So I'm gonna go park my car. There's no proper parking here. Park it here. We have the heavy modular frames being sent here to unload. We have iron here because I did some math wrong, so I needed a little bit more iron. This is where the compacted coal gets sent to. And this is where some limestone gets sent to. We even have a limestone ore on here. We need a lot of limestone for this build. And here is the steel and iron production areas. In this steel factory, we're using the compacted coal, which is probably going to be about the only time I do this. Because like I said, sulfur is rare. So if we head up these stairs, we can get to the first level of the production lines. We have all of the concrete being made here in this long row. Missed a little bit of wall here. Hold on. And in here, we have all the steel pipes being made. So many steel pipes. And then over here, we have the encased industrial beams being made. And then over here is the heart of the facility, the heavy modular frames. All 10 of these manufacturers should be online 100% of the time if everything is 100% efficient. They all do seem to be 100% online. So that would equal 20 heavy modular frames per minute. All getting shipped down and sent to my construct factory. Now here's another floor. We get all the regular modular frames get made here. Which is just so crazy to look at how many are needed for those just 10 manufacturers. Over here are the reinforced frames needed. And over here are the iron rods needed. And then we also needed some iron plates. That's what's over here. And now we get to the final floor, which is where the screws are made for the reinforced plates. Oh, and the heavy modular frames, because they need screws as well. So all the way up here, where all the screws get made. Whole bunch of screws. And like I said, that all gets turned into 20 heavy modular frames per minute. Alright, now, after all the heavy modular frames that we saw here, let's go over to where everything gets shipped to. All the RCUs and all the HMFs, all of that gets shipped over this way. To the construct factory. Oh god. So heading through Gray's Gap here, I'm gonna break the law again and go on the wrong side of the road. But he's slow and I'm fast. Words of advice. Not really. Now we just gotta go up this ramp and make a right here. Then let's go park my car because this is the home base. So this is where the car belongs. We're gonna come here on an official business trip. Oh god. You know what? Yeah, I'm going backwards. I'm cool like that. I'm great at driving this thing. So when you officially park your car here, we can go up here into the start of the production floors. Because the contract factory makes things in of itself. So we can see down here, this is where all the concrete gets made. All of this concrete is used everywhere throughout my entire factories. The same with all these iron plates and the iron rods in this little section. And then the iron ore smelted. This is where all the iron for the construct factory gets created. Very gorgeous site. And I did a lot of work to make sure that the ratios were very correct. This factory gets the perfect amount of ore per minute in. It uses all that ore per minute. And any excess, that gets... When the storages get full, the excess will get deleted. This is probably my most complete factory. Still work to be done, as you can see. But it's mighty gorgeous, I would say. This is one of my favorite sections. Just the multiple different speeds of belts all working together. It's gorgeous. It's the masterpiece, Anyway, over here we have the production line for modular frames. Some plates made here, some screws made here. Combine them to reinforced plates. And then all gets turned into modular frames. Up here, we have the rotor production lines, as you can see by the sign there. And we get screws from upstairs as well to be used in the rotors. What's this? Now up here, on the second floor, we have all the way tucked in this corner here, and brought in by truck, Ethereum production. Ethereum, for build-in purposes, is only really used for quick wire and AI limiters. So that's all that gets made here. This is the reinforced plate production line. We have the screws for that, the assemblers for the reinforced plates, and the constructors for the regular plates. This is where all iron comes in. And then there's just, some copper production import, exports, sign labels because signs are cool. And then over here we have the heart of all my operations. The awesome sinks that delete all excess items. This is the iron production stuff, copper production stuff, and then the excess production stuff. As we can see, the encased beams from the steel forge, or the excess ones, come here to get deleted. We have a small bioprocessing chamber here. We don't really. It's just for random stuff I pick up, I throw in there, and it gets dealt with deep within the bowels of this place. We have all 3 of the Satisfactory trophies, which I think is cool. It's the first time I've done that, actually. Probably mainly due to the fact that you can use alien parts for tickets now. That probably definitely boosts my ticket production. Now we have all of the different materials here that, come in from the steel factory, come in from the HMF factory, and just get made on the spot. I can just come in here, take it, and do what I want with. Little museum to all the 3 main parts here. These belts go underneath into these stack belts, which goes onto the supply train out here. Now, if you did watch the last video, this train would go around. I had a spot over near the steel forge where this train would park and deliver supplies. I removed that because I put the bomb factory there. Beautiful. Anyway. Yeah. This is definitely very helpful. I can just build a train station somewhere in the future and just have all the supplies I need. Anyway, back to the tour of this factory. So there's one more floor to this factory. And it's up here. This is where all the copper gets made. We have a whole bunch of cable. Like, mostly cable gets made here. You can, like, watch the output here for a minute and just say, like, oh, yeah, that's just mostly cable. I don't know why I heavily prioritize cable in this build, but I did. And, well, we can't really change that now. I mean, I could, but, nah. Don't need to. But now, since last time, we have an extra floor. So we can go all the way up here. And we have an extra storage floor. Now this, I didn't really... When I first originally built this factory, I did not plan to have, like, all this stored here. But I'm like, you know what? We need a central hub. So that's what all this is for. So the plastic from the oil facility gets sent here. Same with the rubber. I don't have any of these being made yet. The alclad sheet, casing, the RCUs, silica, quartz, crystal oscillators, and then these guys get made. And there's room for more too. And any excess can be and will be shoved into the awesome sink here. Now, another cool thing about this feature, which is going to be coming soon, drone port support. So, I have quite a couple drone ports here. What is this? 8? 8 drone ports. So, I can set this up with another factory anywhere in the world. And the drones can come drop off supplies for me. Neat. Well, as I do a little bit of a flyby around, that is really the end of the tour. I'm gonna go through a couple angles that you may not see this world at, just to kind of, you know, show them off a little bit. But yeah, that's it currently. I have big plans for this world in the future. I have done a lot of math on the nuclear side of things. With nuclear power, that takes a lot of sulfur. So I know how much sulfur I need, and I know how much sulfur I need for what I plan to use, or plan to make. So, the rest of the sulfur, I can just freely use. So I don't really have to worry about sulfur as much anymore. But the next big factory I plan on is the battery factory, which will be used for drones. I'm going to combine them because I did this previously and I kind of like this design. I might modify it a little bit, but we'll see. So yeah, thank you all for watching. And hopefully we can, like, max out Satisfactory in this world. And make Fix-It Co happy. Alright. Bye-bye.